Well, the weather for the whole of the south of England will continue as it has for the next few weeks. It's going to be hot and moist, with temperatures rising steadily as time goes on. There's a chance of steamy moments as we move into the... sod it. We never wanted to do this. We never wanted to be weathermen and women making innuendos about hot atmospheres and drizzly countries. We didn't want to be child-friendly. We didn't want to bang on about being for over 18s only. We want to talk about our sexy adventures. We want to be lifestylers, leaping from bush to bush as we sail down the rivers of British sex clubs and mountains of crazy experiences. The cheeky purple mamba, the liquid silk pumped liberally into our hand, the rodeo classic brief harness complete with Tantus curve, the Enjoy Pure One stainless steel dildo, the hot octopus digit, the ever so short messages on Fab Swingers, the sexy friends on Twitter, and the mighty vanilla alternative. With my best girlie by my side, we'd swing, swing, swing.
Get in the gym or to your car. With our advice, you could go far. We fuck things up and we make mistakes. And talk about our sexy dates. It's getting hard for this to rhyme. Just as well, 'cause it's bed hopping time.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of the Bed Hoppers podcast. My name's Mr. H.
I'm Mrs. H.
That was a bit of a mouthful. 109. It's a lot
I
of
thought you meant
episodes.
you were a mouthful.
Wow.
Well,
Well, I wouldn't like to say, but, I have
often
been
do.
told that I am a mouthful.
Who told you that?
People.
Who? What names, dates,
I
places?
can't name any of those people.
I think you'll get in trouble if you name them.
I think I would do. A handful, maybe?
A handful of people told you that you're a mouthful.
Yes.
A handful and a mouthful. Okay.
That's right. That's how we're measuring everything.
Very consistent measurements.
I noticed that you have a nose full of champagne there with you.
It's how we measure everything nowadays.
just
and I have
falls.
a really big nose, so
Well, that's why you have
trust
more
me,
champagne
you
than
prefer
I.
my nose full of champagne than yours.
Maybe
Yes.
I just have an earful.
Oh my God. Well, I had a handful.
Well, these jokes are
according to
awful.
you. Oh my God.
Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining us today and thank you for downloading the show. We've got a bunch of questions. We took to Twitter because we weren't too sure what to talk about this time round. Ideas
So we
and
were
whatnot.
just basically lazy.
We got lazy this week because we've been busy and, we lives to lead. Yeah, measuring things in fulls. So we took to Twitter and asked people for some ideas about shows and what they'd like to hear us talk about. And they come up with a load of different ideas. Thank you very much if you submitted one. We've written them down. So some of them will go on to be full-blown, bed hopper episodes.
You want to be fully blown?
Yes, I do.
During this episode.
Are you feeling a bit sexy right now?
Maybe.
Because I'm getting the impression that you've got that slightly sort of, do I make you Randy look in your eyes? So I'll just try and deal with that as I go on.
Is this your Keys in a Bowl episode where you're just chucking all these things into a pick a mix and talking about them?
It's like random questions and topics that we had from people that listen
Cool.
or follow us on Twitter. And I thought we'd pull them out and talk about them. So
Cool.
we're going to go into a few questions. Before we do that, tiny bit of housekeeping, right?
For me?
For all of us, right?
Okay.
Social, totally sold out.
I'm
Fantastic. Really
very
pleased with it.
excited. It's less than a month to go.
The Discord is kicking right off. All of you people, you're amazing. I can't wait to see all of you, meet new people, see old friends.
I'm having to work really hard to keep up with this chat.
Are you working really hard to be tolerant of the chat?
Maybe. I'm doing really well.
You actually
I don't
said something
think
today.
I've offended anyone yet.
No, not to their face. I
Not
mean,
directly.
you often screen print stuff and go, "What the fuck is this person saying?" I'm making this up. This is not true in the
Don't
slightest.
say that.
But it's really cool. I'm really liking the fact that everyone's engaging. Lots of people are in there. I'm really excited for all these people to get together in this amazing venue. So, and we've made some sort of baller moves to make it really special. We've got some good stuff, some
exciting.
little treats. So, we'll tell you all about that when that happens, and hopefully we'll get some of them on the show as well, because you might as well use them to make content.
Well,
as well
let's
as
hope
us.
that the episode we record after the social isn't, hey, we're here to talk about how we really fucked her.
Yeah, this is why we're being sued by the city
It's the
council.
anti-social social.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be fabulous, and I'm nervous, but only nervous because I want to make it as good as I can do for everybody else. So I'm really excited about that.
So you're not nervous that I'm just going to be a bit of a twat?
Well, there's always a risk, and one that I need to be mindful of. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. The other thing that I want to do, and probably we'll cover this at the end if we get time, is talk a little bit about what we did a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Because we went on a little adventure.
Oh, I do remember.
Oh, I do remember. And we might talk a little bit about sexy times. I don't know. We'll see what's going on.
Maybe.
That might, so stay tuned for the question bits, which people have sent us. And then, if you're lucky, then there might be like a little sexy bit at the end where we talk about
riled up again.
Yeah, get you all riled up again. And then, we'll go off and we'll play some Fortnite and not sort you out at all until much later on in the evening. So we asked people on Twitter, as we said, for some questions. And the first one, it was from Soph or Soph. I assume it's Soph. S-O-P-H. Soph. I'm
assuming it's short for Sophie.
One imagines so, but we can't make too many assumptions here. No. But anyway, she or they wanted us to talk about rebuilding trust between partners when someone breaks the rules.
What? No one breaks rules.
Well,
what rules do you speak of?
Yeah, and I think that they did mention that that it wasn't necessarily reflecting on you breaking rules all the time.
Going off script?
Yeah, but how do you rebuild that trust?
Once you've broken the rules?
Yeah, once you've broken the rules.
I think some of it depends on whether you choose to address that at the time when you go off script a little.
Rule breaker.
So the hope is if you do break the rules between you, then you immediately address it in some kind of way, because if you don't, then it's just going to be the elephant in the room and it's going to cause resentment even more. If you don't address it at all, then it's just going to lead to more problems, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a time and a place for addressing the breaking of trust. And I think there is something to be said for keeping your cool and not getting too emotional when you're
exactly
near other people. So, we've had moments where things haven't gone so well, but we've taken ourselves away from the situation.
Yeah.
You're right there.
I was watching you waving your hand with wild abandon towards your glass.
Okay, that's fine.
Which looked like it was going to knock the champagne flying.
Oh, good. It's
the most middle class thing I've said all day.
Do you want your avocado bacon thing to go with your hipster statement?
Don't knock your champagne flying.
We must head immediately to M&S to replace the champagne beer. Anyway, so, I think taking yourself away from that situation can be a useful tool. Talking about it is obviously the critical bit. And I think there is something around how bad was that rule break and how, was it a hard, this is, you cannot do this and you've broken that rule.
Yeah.
That's a lot harder to get back from.
What's the consequence of doing that? If it's just a minor flex of rule breaking, and we've talked about the flexing of, you can flex in and out of rules as long as you're not categorically doing something that your partner will absolutely not want you to do. So, and I think that probably has a bearing on the conversation you have afterwards. Yeah,
true. I think that the most important thing is just that level of communication. And I think quite often if there is a breakdown of trust between partners, then it's about demonstrating those, that trust and trying to build that back up. I mean, if the situation is really bad, it's going to take time to heal those wounds and to build that trust up. Likewise, when people at the very start of the journey, it can often take time for them to build that trust up because they haven't been in an environment where these things have been tested before. I think generally trust is thrown under the spotlight a little bit when you're in an open relationship anyway, because everything you do is compounded a little bit by the fact that you're already pushing yourself beyond the realms of monogamy to some extent. So rule breaking may actually seem like a real big deal in some ways, and rebuilding trust might be really difficult because you're already putting a lot of trust in your partner to be open and honest about things. Yeah, I think there's that. The other thing that I'd probably suggest is to talk to other people, not from a perspective of who was right and who was wrong. I do that, which is your go-to move. You'll never guess what he said. Yeah, you love doing this. How awful is it? In fact, your default used to be to go to your parents if we ever had around, and be like, "Look what he's done. Look what he's saying. This is insane, isn't it?" And of course they'll back you because you always want to validate that your opinion is right, don't you? Yeah. No one likes to be the party that has to admit that maybe they were wrong or they shouldn't have reacted the way they did. So. But the reason I bring this up is that actually you could explore how they would feel about a similar situation and see how they cope with it. So maybe they've gone through it before. How do they get through it? Yeah. And not to cast judgment on people, but to offer advice in terms of how they might approach that situation or how they feel. And putting yourself in someone else's shoes is a really valuable tool in sort of looking at trust and rebuilding that back up. How would you feel if that happened to you? And that sometimes it's hard to do that. And only when you talk to somebody else can you really get a different perspective.
I think we've found over the years, by being in this kind of really open and honest, open relationship now, but it's never quite as bad as you think it's going to be, because ultimately it's not like one of us has kind of gone and run off with someone else, which would be the worst. It's more of a, as you say, like a flex. Rules, I think
it's a situation that just requires you to take a look at it and kind of work through it. Some of these things you can dismiss and be like, oh, that's okay, because you think maybe if I did that I'd want, it's not the end of the world, but it does take time to get your head around some of these things and explore them in more detail. So I would definitely say just keep channeling it through and try and if you're the person that has broken those rules, try and demonstrate a level of trust or build a level of trust by doing things that reassure someone or whatever it might be that goes against what you've done. So that would be my take. So thank you for that one. Adrian said ideas for guys to wear at clubs, or was talking about ideas for things for guys to wear.
Do you mean like dressing down or just generally clothes to wear to a club?
Just generally, you're going to a club, what do you wear? And I think this does come in two parts. There's the, making sure that you've got some nice underwear, some nice shorts or whatever, or some nice pants, whatever it might be, that don't have holes in, that, that represent you, I think is really important. That's like the basic fundamental stuff. It's that you want to look good, you want to present well, you want to, so dragging out those old boxer shorts that you got from Team Building 99 probably aren't going to do the job.
Curry stain.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of actual wear to a club, I think this comes back to, everyone has a different perception of what smart is, but I don't think you can go wrong with a suit.
No, I mean, that might be a little bit over the top of some things.
Well, I think...
But actually, I really like a suit.
Yeah, and you don't have to, full-on tie or bow tie it. And, in fact, we know people like Bradford from By the By who'll wear a polo shirt under a suit jacket, but he'll put a harness on the actual thing. He'll kink it up. A bit edgy. And he looks fabulous. He'll wear it with some really smart jeans and some nice shoes. So you need to really kind of reflect a bit of your style in this, if you can do. But also something that stands out a little bit. If everyone turns up in a grey suit, it's probably not going to be a great fun time. But if you put a nice jacket on over a good shirt or some smart jeans, or you wear the full suit, but maybe you don't go for a tie, you just chill out, or you put some braces on, whatever. There's lots of options you can do to show that you're making an effort. Because I think that's the important bit.
I think it's the effort.
Definitely. Do your hair, sort your beard out, trim your whatever, shave or whatever it might be, but demonstrate that you're making effort. You don't need to be some sort of fashionista by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that effort and confidence that comes with that effort is really sexy.
For me, it's smell nice. Honestly,
smell nice.
No, honestly, it's like my biggest tip, I think, out there for men.
No, your biggest tip was 5.5 inches or something, wasn't it? According to that dream you had the other day.
That was the nipples.
Oh, that's the nipples. Okay, so your biggest tip then. All right, we'll come back to that later, I'm sure.
No, smell nice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing.
And that way, if someone does lean in for a little hug, you kind of captivated by the smell. It's really important for me.
I think there is that general basic hygiene, which I would expect.
Yeah, don't mask it with just chucking some Lynx Africa on it.
No, that's probably not a good idea. But also there's colognes or whatever, or aftershaves that you can put on. Don't overdo it. This is the trick though, because for some people it's like a cloud as they walk in. But that's not about what people are wearing. So I would, I would suggest that you think about things like a suit or a jacket and some smart trousers, nice shirt, these, and good shoes. Shoes are a fascinating one, I find, because it's like good men's shoes, like that make a statement are really cool, and they really draw people's eyes, especially women who like other ladies' shoes. So if you're a man wearing some shoes that are quite different out there, it's like magpie season. They see the shiny things, and this is a terrible way to present this idea, but it does kind of work in that if you've got a pair of sparkly shoes or whatever it might be, it's a conversation starter. It's all about giving people an in to talk to you about something. So if you've got like a cool tie, or you're wearing braces, or you've got something, or a bow tie even.
I think a strong shirt game.
Yeah, that all helps you sort of stand out. And, it could be a short sleeve shirt. I think I said that right. That's quite a tough one to say. But, if you've got some guns, show them off, do it. Or if you've got like a bit of a chest going on, like wear a tight shirt. There's all this stuff you can do to accessorize it and bring it to life. You could put a pin badge or whatever on the jacket. That's always quite fun. So someone has to lean in and have a look and say, what's that? And you can talk about that thing as well. So it's about that, generating that interest, I think, is really important. But, if you do wear a shirt, please iron the fucking thing.
Yeah. Not an elephant's foreskin.
No, try not to wear elephants' foreskins because it's never a good look. But yeah, so iron it, make sure you're nicely presented, and you shouldn't go too far from that. Really, I mean, you'll do well as long as you look. I guess there is a mix between being smart and being comfortable, and I think you need to find that balance for yourself. And I don't like things around my neck at all, so I don't wear a tie and I don't bother with a bow tie. But you can still sort of accessorize your suit, and you can still look smart without going all the way up to like you go into your first interview or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that for me, that's kind of where I'm at with guys. What do you like to see a guy in?
I like a suit.
A suit, eh?
I do love a suit. Men, generally speaking, I like the effort that they've gone to. It doesn't have to be like a tie or anything, or a button-down shirt, but I think it's nice when they've made the effort to make something that matches, and they've clearly taken pride in their appearance.
Yeah, even just
I do like a jazzy shirt.
A nice shirt.
Like an interesting shirt that draws my eye.
Trousers.
So you've got some nice shirts with like tigers on and stuff like that. And I always think, yeah, but I quite like that because it's a bit different.
This is true.
And it's not your average sort of what you just find on the high street. You kind of take the time to go and find something a bit alternative. Yeah, I'll enjoy that.
I kind of like reflecting some of my personality in what I'm wearing. So
yeah, I probably prefer that over kink wear, really.
Yeah.
Even if we're talking about club environments, I'd actually prefer an interesting, like, alternative shirt than someone wearing a mesh vest or something.
I think there's a time and a place for those things, and I think they can work. And pardon me, I think we've seen people wear like mesh shirts, but with a jacket over the top, and that can be quite like you can twist these things around a bit and make them interesting. So that's kind of where I'm at for that one. Okay, the third question: Private Stag and Vixen,
right?
Okay. Want to know the age and stage, I can hardly read now, of relationships that couples take the plunge, and how you overcome barriers such as family, work, and etc.
So we're talking about like demographics of
I think so.
Who swings?
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that the average age tends to be, and maybe Swingers can help, give us some decent stats on that. So I would say seek them out on Twitter, because they've done various surveys where they've got tons and tons of data. But it tends to be the 30s to 50s seem to be the most popular.
That's a big range.
Well, but it is. It's kind of mid 30s. 40 seems to be the main zone, I think. Yes,
and I think I might have agreed with you a couple of years ago, but actually I'm seeing younger and younger people get involved as a demographic, because I almost feel like now what I probably did, I don't know, going back 25 years in my uni days, like just had a random threesome. Now I think the younger generation or demographic would probably think that's quite...
Those young whippersnappers and their threesomes.
It's almost like that's almost like a gateway now into maybe I'm entering into a non-monogamous choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas 20 odd years ago, that was just, actually being a bit of a slut and going out.
Nothing wrong with that.
A night out on the town. And if you ended up with 3 in your bed, it was a good night. But now it's almost, I'm making a choice to do that as a way of life. And maybe my future ongoing relationships may involve others, or I may choose to involve multiple partners rather than seek the orthodox kind of partners of, boy meets girl, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's now more and more younger demographics are doing that because it's just more acceptable.
Yeah, I think there is.
And polyamory is like way out there and trendy. And
it's hot right now. It's like Mugatu.
You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's more acceptable now not to enter into an orthodox kind of relationship status.
Yeah, I think there is something around the description of this. So I think what I've certainly observed is that the sort of 30s, 40s, 50s tend to fall into the swinger category or the hot wife category a lot more. They like a level of definition, I think.
Yeah.
Broadly, and this is massive sweeping statements. But the younger generations, the 20s or late teens or whatever they tend to just like the concept of something that's very fluid and open.
Exactly
and
that.
There's certainly more of that, but I don't think those paths don't always cross because they live very different ways, I think. And certainly they seem to have this sort of, we're just, this is what we do, this is us, rather than slapping a label on it. But I think as, you go into the older generations, of which we are part, it's we're a swinger couple, or we're a hot wife couple, or we have an open marriage, all this sort of stuff.
We've kind of come out of we had a relationship, we got married, we had family, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of go into your next kind of decade of living as an adult, and you're kind of right, now we want to explore this perhaps. Whereas younger demographics, again, they're very fluid with their, I'm pansexual, or I'm this and I'm that, and they're open to all these more alternative concepts. Maybe.
I do think that links back to the question around the stage of relationships, and that the very young generations, this doesn't seem, it's any stage they can jump into that. However, there feels like there's this sort of gap as you get into the 20s, and it's almost like the 20s and 30s are kind of people having kids, they're settling down. For the most part, again, massive sweeping generalizations, but my observation is once they've had those kids,
what do you do now?
What do you do now? And some of those kids are very young.
Adventures.
Some of them are older. Some of them have left, and they're empty nesters. And it's kind of like that. Oh, let's reclaim some of our lives. Let's have some fun. Can't go clubbing. Can't do this. Let's go have sex with some other people. Yeah. And there is a bit of that to it. I think, people taking the plunge. It does feel like there is a level of time and investment that people have traditionally put in before they sort of say, okay, let's become ethically non-monogamous in some shape or form. Like a solid
foundation and a good relationship and all that stuff.
And we know people that have met in the lifestyle. We know quite a few. But the vast majority, I think, are people that have been together 10 plus years, that have kind of, they've become comfortable and confident in their relationship. And therefore that doesn't get rid of, but reduces the risk of going into an open relationship of some sort, or an ethically non-monogamous, I can't even say it,
well, they're ready to enhance their relationship and explore more things.
100%. And as a result, because they are confident and comfortable with who they are, they're happy to explore. Whereas some of those people that are in those early, 3-4 years or whatever, tend to be much more risk of. I think they're either experimental, at the very front end, or they're risk averse once they start getting into the sort of kids settling down period, growing up with their mates in their 20s. That tends to be a time when people don't traditionally get into this sort of thing. But I think, I'd be really interested to look at Swingers Help and see what they had to say about it and all the data that they got. I would have done some research, but it's been a busy week.
Plus, I think it's really difficult to pigeonhole things, and I'd be quite wary of putting any, as you say, any hard facts behind things, because honestly now things are just really way more fluid in terms of people's approaches to things, I think. And in terms of what was the second part of that question, which was about
overcoming barriers.
That was it. Yeah.
And that's a tricky one, because some people have all the luck when it comes to sort of getting pet sitters, babysitters, all that kind of stuff. Other people have to work really hard to fit this extra curricular lifestyle in amongst all of that stuff.
So they value their time when they do get it.
So when they do get that opportunity, they want to go full tilt into it. And I can completely understand that. And it's really fascinating, because we've had a child move back in temporarily, I'm told, on a daily basis. But we've had to sort of organise our lives around that quite a bit, and kind of work through how that prevents us from going out and doing things or bringing people back. And
I mean, most people have a life outside of their non-monogamous choices, and they have to work around that. And obviously that always comes first. It's always secondary, isn't it, to your extramarital pursuits?
Yeah. And there's also, there's other barriers to things like, just literally the ability to manage a diary with people coming in and out of your house, and knowing when everyone's going to be around and what you can get away with, all this sort of stuff. So I think you kind of learn as you go along, and you adapt your play style a little bit to, like a fish in a pond. You grow to the size of your pond, because, that's the only way you can get out and explore this stuff. So but it also can become quite exciting having those barriers there, because they do mean that when you do get the chance to go for it, you really go for it, and it becomes much more exciting as a result. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really tricky one. I'd really be interested in hearing how other people cope with having kids around the whole time and coping with family and
not to mention a pandemic.
Well, yeah, and
we've all had to navigate.
There's always another crisis. We've found that, especially as we get older. There's always another issue where something is broken, or a roof is caved in, or the thing is leaking, or someone's
gets in the way, doesn't it?
Life does get in the way. But actually, we found this to be a huge escape from that reality sometimes. So we look forward to the days when we can go out and do this stuff, because it is a real step away from the humdrum of normal life, which is really cool, I think. Do you want the next question?
Yeah, go for it. What's next in your bowl of keys?
Oh, and bowl of questions. So, Secret Stag.
Oh, yeah.
You know him, right?
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him. Said, toys, how many is too many? Now, I'm assuming he means Transformers. So the answer is there are never enough.
The answer is there is a finite number of Transformers that you can own before it becomes a bane of your wife's life.
And it's not happened yet, which is fantastic.
How do you know?
So good news. I'm glad that you said this. I shall proceed to buy another 8, which is fine.
I am actually surrounded by Transformers boxes as we talk.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm also surrounded by shoe boxes.
Because there's nowhere to put my shoes because of your Transformers.
No, this is the podcasting room, dear. This, I'm just saying, like, if there wasn't a child living with us right now, that would be a Transformer shoebox room.
This is a battle you cannot win. I'm assuming Mr. Stag, who thinks he's kind of a big deal, is talking about sex toys.
I believe he is. And my answer to this is as many as you need.
As you need.
Yeah. And
there's always a better toy to be found.
There's always a bigger fish.
There is.
But there is always, there's new things that are coming out. So there's always technology and evolutions of what's there.
So you told me with televisions.
Yeah, I know.
There's always a bigger TV.
That's
on
why
the horizon.
It's not have a pop at me day. It's let's talk about these people questions. So I would
context
exactly. But I think there is, we've got quite a collection of toys. I wouldn't say that we've got the biggest of all the people that we know.
Gosh, no.
But I think what we find is that you get a toy, you try it, and sometimes it's great and works for you, and sometimes it's meh.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with getting a toy that then doesn't really stack up to what you want it to be, because part of the fun is trying it out.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out for you, then all right. Yeah, actually, good example here. So we've got toys that we've probably not bothered trying much at the time, or tried and then discarded, and then actually months later or a year later, I've suddenly rediscovered them.
Yeah.
And thought, oh.
Well, you lost one for a year.
Yeah.
Or
point. Maybe I didn't really have the right mindset at the time I purchased this toy to want to explore its, hidden depths that it has.
Okay.
So maybe, you can kind of resurrect the toy exploration together and revisit them, and you might find that you enjoy it more.
Yeah. I think, with toys, it's always nice to have a toy for every occasion.
Every possibility.
Yeah, that's the way I think. That's my Batmaning coming into play there.
Yeah, completely.
But I like toys that we can share with other people. I like toys where it's just for us two.
Yeah.
Things that cross over that boundary. And then there's toys that, for example, there are toys there that I can't play with or you can't play with that are just for each of us. Mm-hmm. And then also ones where, for example, like the double-ended dildo.
It's definitely a toy for two people.
It's definitely a toy for, yeah, but it's not us two. I'm merely a hand that holds the thing in the middle occasionally if I'm lucky. So, it's nice having that array of stuff, and they don't always get brought out at every opportunity.
No.
But I like having, I think there's probably about 5 or 6 toys that are sort of in constant rotation.
A regular go-to, these are favourites.
Yeah, and things like the Hot Octopus digit thing or whatever it is. Yeah. Digit and the cock ring, the Enjoy 11 curve. There's a few others.
There's some rotational
the
favourites
wand,
in there.
the Doxy type thing, and some other bits and bobs, which I think are constantly in rotation. And then others drift in, drift out. Like the geeky sex toy ones are really nice, but I think they're like, hey, fun to get out every now and then and play with that, and then back they go.
I think they're almost more of a showpiece.
Yeah, in a way.
I'm more in love with the idea of them than what they actually do.
Yeah,
but I'm also really glad that I own them. So I agree. But the answer is there's no answer, because you can have as many as you want.
Yeah.
You've just got to have somewhere to put them.
I think so. So Dee asked, favourite furniture in the lifestyle?
That's a good question, because we actually do have some furniture that is specific to sex.
Well, firstly, a big bed is essential.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think that's...
Oh, you don't have to do it on a bed.
No, you don't. But
a big bed is fun.
I like a big bed, especially where you can get like 4 of you all lined up. That's great.
Yeah. And when we talk about furniture, are we extending that to the peripheral things like accessories, like
podcast room?
No,
absolutely critical.
No, I mean that sheet you bought,
the Liberation Throw.
The Liberation Throw. That's got like a velvety one side and satin the other side.
Yeah, so like an anti-squirt. Squirt cover.
We make it sound like it stops you squirting.
No, it doesn't. It just stops you squirting all over the
it
precious
doesn't
bed.
Stop you. It just absorbs it.
Well, that's what I mean.
And looks fancy.
Yeah, it looks nice. And if you get it the wrong way up, you just slide all over it like you're sliding across the Dukes of Hazzard car.
It's more exciting than saying, let me just go and get a beach towel.
So I think that thing's really good. The Liberator,
the S flip, whatever it's called.
Yes, like which is like a cube which unfurls. That's quite useful.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I think we forget that it's there because the cube is so well disguised.
It is, but do you know what? I actually do have a little bit of a negative thing to say about that cube thing.
Okay.
It's ever so slightly on the narrow side.
Okay.
So once you're lying on it, it's I think it's fine, but if you roll around ever so slightly or you want some room to move, then you run the risk of kind of rolling off it.
Okay.
And I find it a little bit difficult to stay on it sometimes. Okay. Whether that's because, I don't know, you're supposed to stay still once you're on it, I don't know.
Are you just too wide?
That is
for the furniture.
That's even worse. You're simply too wide for this cube.
Yeah.
Oh.
You need to be this thin to ride the cube.
Well, yeah, actually, okay. I mean, it's a negative thing I've said because it makes me feel a little bit like I might roll off it or topple over.
I think with a lot of movement, you'd have to be a bit careful with that one.
Yeah.
We've also got the wedge, which is quite nice.
The wedge is great, although you do look like me. I do resemble a turtle on my back when I'm trying to get it in the right position, which is very ungainly.
I think you know on your back there is a turtle on your back kind of vibe going on anyway, and you've got your legs in the air and
you're painting a great picture here.
Yeah, I know.
But it's not the easiest thing to put into position and look sexy at the same time.
Well, I think you have to be honest. You have to go, right, there's no dignity in this. Hook your legs over my shoulders and I'm going to slide this
under your back.
Yeah. And I've said that a number of times. And it's funny, but it's actually quite a nice piece of kit.
But not something that you'd necessarily want to encounter with a new partner, and you don't really want them to see you at your most ungainly.
No, maybe not. But I think from hey, this is a bit of fun. It's because it's no different to a couple of cushions.
Please close your eyes while I manoeuvre myself.
Please look to the right.
Exactly.
Cast thine eyes upon mine.
I think a lot of furniture, or these furniture accessories, actually do, whilst they're very good at achieving an end result, it is just a little bit awkward trying to manoeuvre it and get it where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be fair,
part of the fun, but also it's not great if you want to look really hot when you're doing it.
Yeah, and you can take some of this furniture to like a new level. We know that by the by have I don't think they've got it anymore, had like this wonderful BDSM bed that had hooks and ropes and swings and all sorts of things on it. It looked fantastic.
Maybe they do, who knows?
So, I think they've moved house and the bed was too big to move out of the room than it was constructed. But
they might as well have it.
They may well. Who knows? We don't. But,
by the way, you can get bespoke, purpose-built beds and furniture. I
love the idea of that. That sounds like a real fun thing.
Especially if you're really into the kind of kinky BDSM stuff.
Yeah, maybe there's something for the spare room.
I mean, we have. Oh my god, we've got a sex swing, which hilariously hasn't really made the light of day for a long time because it's really difficult to use.
And it's like over the door kind of thing. I'm not entirely impressed with it, to be fair.
I'm not impressed either. I mean, they look great in a club because you're like, oh, look at this. It's suspended from the ceiling and it's got its own room to show it off, but it's not ideal if you're putting it on the back of your bedroom door.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. So I'm going to move on.
Go on.
So Starlord and Penny Lane, hello. Yeah. They asked about coming out stories.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't think we can probably do this one that much justice in the space of a 5-minute sort of blurb. And, we've covered our sort of coming out to the kids and sister type stories before. I would say is that if you've got an interesting story about coming out, not just them, anybody, just get in touch with us. We'd love to hear it. If you want to send us an audio clip, we can arrange that. And we'll do a show about it at some point in the future.
It probably deserves credence of a bigger episode.
Yeah. Nice idea, guys. Thanks for making us work. Anyways, so Fun Couple 2222.
All the twos.
22. Said that we liked their tweets. That was nice. I enjoyed that. Yeah, that was fun. Thanks, guys. Swingers Help. Come in with a few things. So the first one is around non-drinkers in the lifestyle.
Fascinating.
Great answer.
You're welcome.
Love it. Next
Tune
question.
In next week.
Yeah, thank you for that.
No, I think this is a fascinating
while you're
subject.
answering this one, I'm actually going to pour you a drink
Ironically,
hilariously.
Pour me some champagne. So I've got loads of opinions about this, and part of that is because we've recently spoken to a few people about this very subject. And there's a lot of pros and cons for drinking and not drinking respectively in this journey. And we've been on both sides of that, to our detriment and also to our advantage. So some people consciously make the decision not to drink whilst they're going through these adventures because they want to remember all of the things in glorious detail. And I think that's amazing if you can actually do that and navigate this, choppy journey, and you can do it without
perform, to be fair.
And you can do that, and you don't sense any nerves, and you can do it. Brilliant. Then you should totally do that. What I will say, I can't personally. I do like to have a couple of drinks, even if it is only a few, because I just find that me personally, as a preference, it takes the edge off. I don't know. I like to feel a little buzz of something that elevates my mood.
Going back to the toys conversation.
No, it's not. I know a couple of drinks, even if it's only one or two, it will elevate my mood a little bit and it will put me at ease. Yep. I don't need a drink to perform. I just like it.
Yep. No,
I find not drinking to me a little bit of a hindrance with my own mood, because I just like to feel a little bit flirty, and a drink or two brings that out in me.
Yeah, I'd say that's true for you. I've kind of lived I suppose I've been more of the not drinking side.
I know, you had to, didn't you, for a while?
For a while, you weren't able to drive, and you're on medication and stuff. So I had to be around for that. So we did have a few meets during this period, and I drove you to those, drove us to the meets, and I didn't drink.
So you've had the benefit of both experiences, really.
Yeah. I found it harder to understand sober, but
to get into a mood.
To get into the mood, maybe. But I think part of that also was much more about the fact that this is quite early on in our stages. So
and Dutch courage is nice, isn't it?
It helped, and I think I still like a drink, but it's very possible to enjoy the lifestyle without a drink. I think people will probably question that. As to, why aren't you having a drink? Purely because drinking is so prevalent, I would say.
It is, I would agree. Most people probably identify or associate having a bit of a good time with a couple of drinks, even if that's as far as you take it.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think even, on a social, it's quite common to go to a pub and have a few drinks or whatever and all this sort of stuff. I think we did a number of meets when I wasn't drinking, and I think everything was fine. It was just a lot.
I think if everyone's drinking and not you,
that's
harder still.
I think that was part of it, in that everyone had a drink, and
apart from
me, and that was kind of weird. But also, it was just harder, sort of getting into that frame of mind. But equally, I think we've been and we've played with people where one of them doesn't drink, and that's absolutely fine.
Of course, it is.
It's just I think instantly you kind of get a bit like, oh, well, you're not drinking. Because you're nosy and you kind of want to know, but I don't think it necessarily has to be detrimental to your experience. And in fact, I would say that we've probably encountered more problems from people, particularly men, who have drunk too much.
I would agree with that as well. So annoyingly, as I said, it can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
and I think it depends how responsible you are with your own preference. And unfortunately, I've fallen foul of my own rules there and not drunken responsibly sometimes, and I accept that and I acknowledge that. But if you do it in moderation and you do drink responsibly, it can enhance your experience, I think.
Yeah, I would say that's fine. It's just knowing when to stop or when to slow down. I think there is a giddy excitement that comes with you
feel you're invincible.
And you continue to drink, and before you know it, you're chucking up in someone's muff, and that's never a good thing. So my take would be it's absolutely possible to be a non-drinker.
Of course.
And most people we absolutely welcomed. I think, particularly in this country, I think people are often eyed with suspicion if they don't drink.
I would agree. And
just
that's
generally
not necessarily the right thing, but it is also
but that's my experience.
More often than not, our experience is that people at least will have a couple of drinks.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I would say, go for it, knock yourself out. jump in feet first, all that sort of stuff. But just be mindful that people may be a little bit like, what? But they'll get over that quickly, and they should get over themselves. The other thing they asked about was about BBW and being in the lifestyle.
Okay.
And,
BBW?
Is it possible to be a big, bold, beautiful woman or whatever?
I don't think I've ever truly understood what it stands for. Is it big and busty? Big, bold, big, beautiful.
Big, beautiful
big,
women.
Beautiful women.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
So I think this kind of harkens back to that sort of body shapes in the lifestyle and what's accepted and what's acceptable and all this sort of stuff. And I would say with 100% certainty that we have seen every single different body size, shape. From, well, I don't need to explain what body shapes are to you, gentle listener, but we've seen the whole gamut of that. And I think what I will say is that everyone is entitled to feel attracted to what they feel attracted to. So for some people, they just won't be interested because of the, preference. It could even be, it could be down to your haircut. It could be down to your body shape.
Well, some people don't like beards.
Yeah, 100%. And absolutely, everyone is entitled to do that. What I will say is that I think there is a bit of a sort of a snobbishness about body size. We've certainly witnessed that. But not everyone is that way inclined. And it depends where you go and the environment that you're in. So we've been to Desire a couple of times. And the first time we went with a We Got a Thing takeover. And that group of people were probably a lot more interested in the way that people look. It was I'd say there's a lot more of a focus on that. We then, the following year, we went with the Life on the Swing set, who were much more body friendly and much more kink and approach and all that sort of stuff friendly. And I would say that was a much better group and a much more welcoming group as a result of it.
Because of the acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think no one should be limited by their lack of self-worth in this.
No, not at all.
When we entered this, I naively thought that everybody would be of a certain shape or size. And I kind of made some assumptions around, in order to be successful and be wanted or, be accepted by anyone on sort of dates or experiences, I'd have to look a certain way. So it was a real shock to my levels of confidence when A, that wasn't the case, and B, actually it doesn't necessarily follow that if you're slim with big boobs, then you're going to do any better than someone who's maybe curvy and just has a great personality.
Yeah.
So I think it can do wonders for your confidence being in this kind
100%.
of lifestyle, because there's someone out there that appreciates every form. I think, but somewhere along the way.
But it's all very well you saying that, but I think you have to have a level of preparedness of rejection in this lifestyle, and it doesn't matter what you look like.
No.
Or even to a certain extent how you behave and all that sort of stuff. Although it's obviously good to behave in a good way, some people are going to like you and some people are not. And you need to know that some people, if you're forwards and you say, hey, do you fancy doing this? Some people are going to say no and some people are going to say yes.
And some people will just have barriers of their own based on age.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with your body shape or your body size. It could just purely be that they just don't like playing with people over, 50, for example, because that's just your preference.
Anything can be a preference.
Yeah.
Age, colour, accent, all that sort of stuff. What I would say is that this is often the most welcoming lifestyle or the most welcoming thing or club or whatever you want to call it that I've ever witnessed. At the same point, it can be also the most judgmental.
Oh, I completely agree.
And I think it's about finding your tribe, and that's really hard to do. And we took a long time finding a place where we were comfortable. But you have to get to that spot. And you could go into a club, for example, and you're going to see lots of different shapes, sizes, whatever, but you just don't know how people are going to react to you.
Yeah. And likewise, you could exchange messages on some of the sites like Fab or, like some of the other ones, and you might just find that people reject you purely and simply on the basis of how your profile looks. Yeah. And that can be really hurtful, especially if you think, well, they've clearly done that because I'm a little bit curvy or I'm a little bit overweight. And it's hard not to associate your lack of self-worth sometimes with why people reject you.
Absolutely. And I think, we've rejected profiles because the spelling has been bloody awful. And
nothing to do with a body image.
But that level of intelligence is something that we find attractive. And that's absolutely our right to find that attractive. Yeah. And to have preferences around that. I think what's really important is that the way you handle that rejection as someone that's turning someone down is absolutely critical. And
I agree.
One of the things I loved about the swing set thing was actually everyone was encouraged to ask for what they wanted, but also everyone was absolutely encouraged to say if you didn't want to do it, you could say so. And you know what? You can celebrate that because. I remember someone asked us asked me if she could hook up with me, and I pondered it for ages and ages and ages, and I sent her a message back because this was all done via the chat medium or whatever it was. And I said, look, I'm really sorry. I really like you as a human being, but I don't want to do the thing with you.
Yeah.
Hope that's okay. Like, come and see me for hugs, high fives, whatever. But this is where I draw on. And she wrote back and was like, that's no problem at all. Like, it's really cool that you've actually, that you've responded and told me what you're interested in. I'm really happy for that. Okay, that sounds a little bit over the top, but as a principle, I utterly adored that because it meant that I had the confidence to ask for what I wanted, but also had confidence in knowing that if someone was to reject me or turn me away, and believe me, it happens a lot, that they would do so in a way that didn't hurt my feelings.
And also, it's absolutely their right, to be honest, because what's worse, someone having a pity fuck with you.
Yeah, well, there is that.
I would end by saying with this one, because it's a really big subject, actually, and I know we've covered it tons on different shows, but I maintain it's not your responsibility to live up to someone else's expectation of how you should look.
Yeah.
Because that's preference. It's your choice.
Yeah.
And if you're happy, go for it. There's going to be someone out there who finds you amazing.
And that's the thing. It's that confidence. It's knowing that you have self-worth, and as long as you go in with that, then you will find people that will play with you.
Is so attractive anyway.
100%. So the last thing that Swingers Help mentioned, and this will be the last one before we sort of round up our little what we've been up to kind of thing. They said games to get things started. And there's only one real answer to this.
You love games.
I love games. I think games have played a really important part, and without doubt, the thing to get things started has been the gamer lifestyle for us.
I really agree, and it's not because we're affiliated or anything like that with them. I think it's a brilliant game.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you go to the gamer lifestyle and use code bh10, you get 10% off. Yeah. We don't get a kickback from that. They've been very kind to us over the years,
and they're great. I love their games.
The games, I mean, we played it with our Star Trek party, or not our Star Trek party, but the one we went to. And honestly, it made things simple, it made it easy, it made it fun. So I cannot recommend that enough. There's some apps, things like Peachin, which is hilariously funny and bad, but does a similar sort of thing. You can play Truth or Dare. You can play Roll the Dice. Spin the bottle. All that's kind of fun. I mean, you could even play Fortnite for months on end to build a relationship with people. But I would say that if you're in the environment and everyone's sort of nervous about playing but wants to play, that gamer lifestyle just kicks ass. It's just so good. And
it's fun without making someone feel like they're put on the spot, because there's all these different levels of safety built in to protect you and how nervous you are. If someone's not happy, you just scale it back. You just go back a bit and you take it back to icebreaker.
So there's the icebreaker sort of questions. And for our social, we got in touch with the Game Lifestyle people, and they said that we could use some of their questions as a question of the day as we're leading into the social. So every day I take a picture of the card in a different way and post it on. And you know what? It's been amazing. It's like, what porn do you like? When was the last time you masturbated?
I think it's just
about
really
6 hours ago. All that sort of stuff.
Way to break the ice and have some like-minded conversations with people. And it even brings the shyest person out their shell a bit, because it doesn't give you any shame talking about the subjects that they bring up.
No, and I think it's so simple. It doesn't take a lot of space. It's not like a whole board game. It's just a deck of cards or 2 decks of cards or whatever. And it's it's never not worked.
And you know what? It's always fun when you get stopped at customs and they get it out and have a look
Oh,
and then start throwing your cards all over the floor.
Yeah, that's true. But there is always the risk that your wife is hiding the put a blindfold on you and everyone takes a turn kissing you card. I suspect if I shake you,
absolutely reserve my right to do that. Yeah. It's an amazing card. Mm-hmm. I would ask Game and Lifestyle, if you're listening, to please make at least 10 replicas of that card and put it into every bag.
And just send them to you.
Because every woman needs that card.
Well, that's absolutely fine. So,
I mean, in the absence of that, I would still say games of any description is a really good icebreaker anyway. Even if you just got a pack of playing cards and played a little random game of strip poker. If you don't know how to play poker, then play Snap.
Yeah.
I don't know. But something that just elevates you from A to B without it being, what do we do now? How do we get to the point where we've all been out and we've done some stuff and now we want to go and do some more stuff, but we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest hurdle that we faced, I think, in the early days.
Totally.
How do you go from A to B and do it without feeling awfully nervous?
Yeah.
And the games can help so much.
Definitely. And don't forget to put a spin the bottle app on your phone as well. That's absolutely critical. Yeah.
And it's really fun.
Yeah, especially one where you can put names in if you're
And it reminds me of that years and years ago when you kind of go to like parties and stuff and you play spin the bottle just because it's
never
fun.
happened to me.
How has this never happened to you?
You've met me, right?
And he was an adult.
That sounds like rule breaking to me.
Oh, all right, 7 minutes in heaven then.
Never did that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's just why I'm making up for it now. So I'm conscious that we've spent a long time going through these questions. So thank you to everyone that submitted them. There were a number that we've not been able to get through today, and some of those are going to go on to become shows in their own right.
I think
some of them require a bit of research. So if you've got thoughts on any of this stuff, just chuck it our way. That would be lovely.
Or even new questions we haven't got.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We love hearing from our listeners, or just people on Twitter. You know, if you don't listen but you just want to chuck us a question, do it, and we'll be really interested to see what you got to say. Now, before we close this one out, I want to give a little bit of a tease because I don't want to talk about this in full, but I think it would be good to give listeners a little bit of a snapshot about what we've been up to over the past sort of week or two.
What have we been up to?
Well, we took a trip, didn't we?
Go on.
To the year 3000 where everyone bought our seventh
album. Were there triple-breasted women?
Yeah.
Although we did watch Total Recall recently and there were triple-breasted women.
With boy bands and another one and another one and another one. No, we went to London, right? London.
We did.
With
the Big Smoke.
2 other couples, right?
And this has been on Twitter, so yes, we can.
This has been on Twitter. So who did we go with? Who did we go with?
His Cock Hotel and Secret Stag, Secret Vixen.
So we went to London and we went to the pop-up superhero bar. The same people that do the Cauldron, the Harry Potter make your own potions
Harry Potter
/ cocktails. Yeah, it's not official.
Actually official Harry Potter.
Yeah, Barry Plotter and
that's the one.
His
Barry Trotter,
Hoblet of Dyer. Okay, it was a lot of pressure on me to come up with a good one.
We went to the superhero bar.
So we went to a
London,
pop-up superhero bar,
which is only there until the end of August.
Yeah, and we stayed in a really nice Airbnb.
Yeah,
and we did this sort of making cocktails with old superhero type things. What I really liked, we got there and they immediately gave us masks.
Oh, you mean the superhero
capes,
people?
The superhero
I thought you meant his Cocktail.
Well, no. We'll come to them in a bit.
Oh,
but we all had all these masks on
and capes.
But what I really liked is the fact that we all have these superhero names. Like we all, we're LV, VI, Secret Stag, Secret Vixen, Mr. H, Mrs. H, and we've got genuine superhero names, as we see it. And we had to do all this cocktail making, and it was really fun.
That was terrible, wasn't it?
It was honestly, it was an amazing little time, and I was really pleased that we got to spend some quality time with those fantastic people.
It was a powerful room.
It was a powerful power couple room.
There was a lot of charged energy in that room.
And I'm not going to describe what happened later on in the night. Maybe I'll save that for another one.
You absolute tease.
I am a bit of a tease today. But what I did like, so once we'd done our superhero training, and I use that term loosely, basically it was making 3 drinks. We then retired.
One of the party was terrible at reading instructions.
Yes. We're not going to reveal who that is, Secret Stag, but you know who it is.
He was shocking.
So we all retired into the back of that room, which was like the lair, the super villain.
I really
area,
liked
it was really cool. It was really funky.
It was dark, and it had candles and funky red lights, and it was just really, really cool to hang out there.
And it was quite, started off quite empty. Then a few more people sort of ended up.
But we got the best real estate.
Yeah,
we got the big table in the middle with the settees and the big chairs.
We got the nice real estate, which was obviously of prime importance to Mrs. H, who enjoys a good table, apparently.
I do enjoy a table.
You do. You really do. But while we were in there, at one point, we're all sort of chatting around, and there's quite a tense atmosphere in terms of things are feeling quite sexy, right?
Well, who knew after 15 cocktails?
Well, after quite a few cocktails, again, referring back to the drinking in this situation. But actually, because they're all wonderful people, they're all really good friends, they are all hot.
Yes.
All hot. And I turn around, and what are you doing?
I might have been kissing somebody.
Who were you kissing?
It wasn't my husband.
No, it wasn't.
It was someone else's husband.
In a bar?
In a public bar.
In a public bar.
I thought that was actually really hot.
It was really hot. I was like, oh, that's naughty.
That's sexy.
And at that point, I think a fuse was lit.
Well, maybe that was a catalyst for, this is happening.
Yeah, and I think...
I was feeling very naughty, very flirty. And I do enjoy an atmosphere that I feel has been created just for us in a way, because we're all together, we're all looking really nice, we've all dressed up. It's a really exciting venue. And I'm sitting next to someone else's very attractive husband. What am I going to do?
What, make out with them, apparently?
Yes, exactly that.
And then make out with the girls.
And then I made out with the very sexy ladies.
Yeah.
And then obviously I made out with you at some point because you're my very attractive husband.
Thank you.
I think it's safe to say I made out of everyone at the table.
I think you did. What I think you liked more was the fact that as this was happening, people were starting to come into the bar and wondering what was going on. And it was really sexy.
It's very exciting
because
though.
We had this, we don't really know these people. They don't give a shit about us. So it was fun to play in that dynamic of being a little bit out in the open, a little bit more flirty and frivolous with our, with our whole approach. And it was quite funny because the barman dude noticed all of this sort of stuff.
We were quite discreet in a way. We didn't just sit there all making out like American Pie. It was, we just every now and then we rotated a little bit and we sat next to someone different. Yeah. And then after 10 minutes of chat, there might have been some kissing with that person.
But I loved all of that stuff that was building up and that flirtiness. A
very sexually charged atmosphere.
It really was. And I mean, what happened next, we'll probably have to talk about on the next episode.
Oh, you absolute prickties.
Oh, it's so terrible, isn't it? I mean, people can see a picture or two on the Twitters
if
they want to.
Twitter pictures.
There are some Twitter pictures. There are some pictures and videos which are never, ever being released to the public.
No.
But there is a story to be told, and I think we can do that on our next episode. So
I think
that would be good.
We might delve into the London trip.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit of that, and maybe we'll talk about some other things as well.
What other things have you got in your mind?
No idea yet. We'll see what people send us. So thank you ever so much for staying with us. If you've got questions about anything we've talked about today,
the questions will be what we did next.
Yeah, what do we do next?
Because let's face it, that's what people want to hear.
Well, the naughty bit. Mm-hmm. No, they wanted to hear about these questions that they sent us, and we have diligently rambled through them, promising people a bit of naughtiness, and then stepping away at the last moment, leaving them edged for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, you have successfully edged the audience.
I mean, they don't want to know about that thing where you did, and then someone else had to sleep in and then there was and that. I mean, they don't want to know about that. So we'll save that for next time round, because hopefully we'll whet your
next
appetite.
Time on Jackahorny.
Yes, Jackahorny. We'll talk a little bit about that. And, if you've got questions, thoughts about anything that we've talked about today, or want to chuck us some more questions, send them to bedhopperssuck on Twitter or bedhopperssuck@gmail.com.
Or we now have a Patreon.
Yes, we do have a Patreon.
Which, shocker, I'm actually mentioning.
All right, how do you get to there, dear?
I don't know.
Come on, you can tell us.
Me. It's something to do with going to Patreon and then Bedhoppers.
It's patreon.com/bedhoppersuk.
I knew it. I totally knew that.
So, thank you again to our patrons that have signed up to support us. We're going to be doing some special stuff for them very soon. We've already done a couple of special bits.
What do I have to do?
You'll see. You'll see. And... if you want to support us...
is it just going to be you doing Star Wars impressions? They're going to be
the survivors, a perimeter
woefully disappointed.
Look at me with those young eyes.
I mean, it's not going to be me doing Star Wars impressions, let's face it.
It is.
No, it's not.
Can you do a Chewbacca impression?
No, I cannot. It's not happening. That's not me.
There's you. You totally moved your lips. Oh, not those. Oh, this is awkward now. Anyways.
I can only do a Chewbacca impression with my other lips.
Exactly.
Again, that's not me.
Okay, fine. Right, anyway, thank you for joining us. Mrs. H, do you want to do your thing?
I do. Thank you for hopping into our bed.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of the Bed Hoppers. Fucking. And so you waited for me to start, and then you got your boob out.
I wasn't. I was just rearranging them.
If just one boob believes in you, strong enough and hard enough believes in you.
Wanted to be comfortable.
Why not more and more?
And to get comfortable, I had to release one of the Babylons.
When all those Babylons believe in you.
Feel it slightly and then put it back in.
Strong enough and hard enough. What about your crazy dream where you had giant nipples? Is that why you got your boob out?
That was the worst dream. It was so strange. Like, really strange.
Would it be worse to have nipples the size of dicks or dicks the size of nipples?
I think I've been asked this question before, but suffice it to say I had 5-inch nipples in my dream.
How do you know they were 5 inches?
Because I remember in my dream they were like hanging out and I was really confused why they were so big.
Okay.
But then
Did you get a ruler
in
out?
my dream I was telling you to arouse me so I could
Arouse you. Arouse me, good
so
sir.
I could show you how long they were and how ridiculous they looked. And then you consequently did. You looked at them and then you felt them and then they went like ridiculous and they were like poking out. Like,
and how did you wake up, dear?
I've just realised you're recording this.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, this one, isn't it?
For your pleasure.
It's for your oral pleasure.
I woke up mid-play with myself.
Mid-play with yourself?
Yeah, in my dream self had clearly initiated
Once again, she wakes up fudging herself in the middle of the night.
I was, actually. I can't deny that. But I didn't know it was my dream self, so I can't be held responsible.
And I think your real self was crossing over and fudging with your dream self.
They met in the middle somewhere.
They did. They very did. They did.
Right.